What did you think of that request of the brothers James and John in today's gospel? When they said to Jesus, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask you to do." Does that make you bristle just a bit? Or does it sound like what you say to the Lord very often? "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask you to do." And Jesus says, "Well, what is it you want me to do for you?" And they reply, "When you come into your glory, we want to be seated, one of us at your right hand, at the other at your left." Jesus meets them where they are. They were trying to use him. And he takes them to another level. He wants to enable them to know him and to love him. He says, "The one that wants to be the greatest among you must be the slave of everyone. For I, the Son of Man, did not come into this world to be served, but to serve, and to give my life as a ransom for many." James and John wanted to manipulate Jesus. Jesus wanted them to know him and to love him, and they indeed would. There was a nun, 86 years old, who said to one of the sisters in her community, "Please pray for me. I'm falling in love with God." Now, she wasn't just whistling in the night. I'm falling in love with God. She was acknowledging the command that God has given to every single person, that God has created. In the 5th book of the Bible, the Old Testament, the book of Deuteronomy, God gives this command: "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your might." And lest we think that was only for the people of the Old Testament, Jesus quotes that very passage when a young lawyer asks him, "Which is the greatest of the commandments?" And Jesus says, "This is the greatest. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." This is not just a little request from God to us. Like, if you have a little time today, would you mind showing me a little bit of love, if it isn't too inconvenient for you? That isn't what God says. "I am the Lord your God. You must love me with your whole heart and your whole soul and your whole mind and your whole strength." That's his command. Now, if in life you love someone else with all your being, you have a great glimpse of the kind of love that God wants from you. Please pray for me. I'm falling in love with God. How do we keep that commandment from God? How do we fall in love with God? I'm going to suggest something to you today. And the word is contemplation. Now, I can see you already bristling. Contemplation, isn't that for the mystics? That certainly isn't for me. Or maybe you're thinking, isn't that navel gazing? Therefore, doesn't apply to me. I'm going to define contemplation this way. It's a long, loving look at what is real. It's another way of knowing. Let me give you some examples that involve contemplation that may touch your own experience to show that you can do this. You go to Severance Hall and hear the Cleveland Orchestra and Cleveland Chorus perform Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and time stands still. You sip a cup of perfectly brewed Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. You visit the Cleveland Art Museum and stand before a great masterpiece in awe. You watch LeBron leap and drop a ball into the basket, seemingly without effort. You give birth to a baby, and you hold your baby for the first time and see your baby's face, the child that you have been carrying for 9 months close to your own heart. You look at the cross, and you're struck by how much the Lord loves you. And maybe you remember a line from today's gospel. I came not to be served, but to serve, to give my life as a ransom for many, and to know you are included in his embrace of love. To contemplate, to look long and lovingly at what is real, not analyzing, not defining, not categorizing, but entering into that experience, becoming one with whatever, with whomever, looking lovingly and long at what is real. Contemplation. You can take a walk on a beautiful morning at the lakeside. And as you're walking, you might stoop down and put your hand in the water and say to yourself, yes, that certainly is H2O. Or you can stoop down and put your hand in the water and leave it there and feel the force of the current and the waves coming to the shore as that water moves through your fingers. You're contemplating a long, loving look at what's real. You watch a sunset, and it's awesome. You look into the eyes of someone that you love, and time is not a factor. You enter into that relationship. To contemplate is to love the handiwork of God, which leads us to God Himself. To love with a long, loving look at what's real. Now, how do we deepen that ability to contemplate God and the things of God? I'm going to suggest today 3 little steps that you can take home with you. One is you have to experience the desert once in a while. Now, I'm not talking about sand and camels and cacti, but I'm talking about those moments in life where you feel solitude, where you feel vastness around you,